Logan Vasquez had just walked out of the grocery store with a bag of off-brand cereal and a dented can of beans when he heard a woman scream. It wasn't the kind of scream you ignore. It was sharp, panicked, desperate. He turned fast, scanning the sidewalk. A sleek black car had stalled in the middle of the crosswalk. Inside, a woman was pounding the steering wheel, her window halfway down. "Hey, are you okay?" Logan called out as he jogged toward her, adjusting the strap of his worn backpack. She looked up, startled. Her eyes were a striking hazel, wide with frustration. "No, I'm not okay. This stupid car just died, and I'm late for a meeting I can't miss." He glanced at the vehicle, a luxury sedan, probably worth more than his entire apartment building. "Pop the hood," he said, setting his groceries down. The woman hesitated, then hit the latch. Logan lifted the hood and bent over the engine, frowning. "You know what you're doing?" she asked from behind him, arms crossed, her heels clicking nervously on the pavement. "I'm a single dad." "I know all kinds of things," he said with a small grin, wiping his hands on his already dirty jeans. "It's your battery. I can give you a jump, but you'll need to get it replaced," she blinked. "Seriously, you carry jumper cables." "I carry diapers, fruit snacks, and jumper cables." "Comes with the territory," he said, walking to his old pickup parked nearby. It was faded red and had seen better days, but it still ran. Once he had the battery connected and her car started, the woman exhaled a huge breath of relief. "Wow, thank you." I didn't expect you." Logan raised an eyebrow. "Because I'm not wearing a suit." "Because you just dropped everything to help me," she said, a little quieter. "Most people would have just walked by," he shrugged. "You looked like you needed someone." She smiled for the first time. It lit up her face, softening the sharp edge of her expression. "I'm Leighton Zeller," she offered, holding out her hand. "Logan Vasquez." "And that's my daughter over there." He nodded toward a little girl sitting on the pickup's passenger seat, watching them through the window with big, curious eyes. Leighton squinted. "She's adorable. Her name's Delilah. She's 5 going on 15. Leighton looked at him for a long second. "Can I repay you? Coffee? Lunch?" Logan shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." "I want to," she insisted. "Seriously, let me buy you lunch. It's the least I can do." He hesitated. He didn't have time for distractions. Between 2 jobs and raising a kid alone, his days were packed. But something about her, something real under all the polish, made him pause. "All right," he said finally, "but only if Delilah gets nuggets." They ended up at a small diner 2 blocks away. Logan sat across from Leighton while Delilah munched happily beside him. "So what do you do?" he asked between bites of his sandwich. "I work in, well, business," she said vaguely, stirring her iced tea. "Business?" She looked amused. "Boring stuff. Meetings, numbers." "You wouldn't be interested. Try me." She hesitated, then said, "I run a company." "Like a manager?" "No," she said slowly. "Like the CEO?" Logan blinked. "Wait, you're the head of a company, Zeller Enterprises. Maybe you've heard of it." He almost choked. "You're the Zeller from Zeller Enterprises. The one that owns like half the office buildings downtown," Leighton laughed. "Guilty." He stared at her, completely thrown. In his mind, CEOs wore expensive suits and lived in penthouses. Not women who drove themselves around and got stuck in traffic like everyone else. "I didn't expect that," he admitted. "Most people don't," she said, a little wistfully. After lunch, Leighton bent down to Delilah's level and said, "Thank you for sharing your daddy with me today." Delilah giggled and gave her a shy wave before jumping into Logan's arms. As Leighton climbed into her car, she paused. "You surprised me today, Logan," he chuckled. "You weren't the only one surprised." She hesitated, then added, "Maybe we'll run into each other again." "Maybe," he said, watching her drive off. But even as he said it, he knew he wanted to. 2 weeks passed. Logan didn't expect to ever hear from her again. People like her didn't mix with people like him. But one Saturday morning, as he and Delilah were walking out of the local library, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. Leighton stepped out, wearing jeans and a simple white blouse. She looked different, softer, less guarded. "Hey," she said. "Hey," Logan replied, surprised. "I've been thinking about you," she said, walking up, "and I was wondering if maybe you and Delilah would want to come to the zoo with me today." Delilah lit up. "The zoo?" Logan looked between them. "You sure about that?" "I don't invite people lightly," Leighton said. I meant what I said, you surprised me, and I liked it. He couldn't help but smile. All right, but I'm buying the ice cream. At the zoo, Leighton held Delilah's hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. She laughed at the flamingos, took pictures of Delilah feeding the goats, and even got a butterfly to land on her finger, earning gasps from every kid in the exhibit. Logan watched her, something stirring in his chest. She wasn't just beautiful. She was kind. Genuinely. And she looked at Delilah like she mattered. That night, after Delilah was asleep in the backseat, Leighton leaned against the car and said, "Thank you for today. You planned it." "I meant thank you for letting me be part of it," she said softly. "It's been a long time since I felt like I belonged somewhere." He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in years he felt it too. "You want to come by next Saturday?" he asked. "We're making pancakes and probably setting the kitchen on fire." Leighton smiled. "I'd love that." And just like that, something real began. Logan's fingers were dusted with flour, a half-mixed bowl of pancake batter resting on the counter, when Leighton knocked on the door the following Saturday morning. Delilah bolted toward the entrance, her mismatched socks sliding across the floor. "I'll get it. Careful," Logan called, wiping his hands on a towel. When the door swung open, Leighton stood there holding a small box wrapped in shiny paper and a bright yellow ribbon. Her hair was pulled into a loose ponytail, and she wore sneakers that had definitely never stepped inside a boardroom. "I brought something for the chef," she said, holding out the box to Delilah. Delilah gasped, clutching the gift with both hands. "Can I open it now?" "Go ahead," Logan said, leaning against the doorway. Inside the box was a miniature apron with a cartoon unicorn holding a spatula. Delilah let out a squeal and immediately tugged it over her head. "I love it," she declared, twirling. "Looks like you've got serious competition in the kitchen," Leighton said, stepping inside. Logan laughed. "I can already feel my title slipping." They made pancakes together, the kitchen gradually descending into chaos. Leighton was terrible at flipping, but she was good at making Delilah laugh, and that seemed more important. When breakfast was over, and Delilah was busy building a tower of syrup bottles and napkin rolls in the living room, Logan poured them both coffee and nodded toward the small balcony just off the kitchen. They stepped outside, the morning air still cool. The view wasn't much, just rooftops and a crooked line of telephone poles, but it was quiet. "I don't get a lot of mornings like this," Leighton said, wrapping her hands around her mug. "Neither do I," Logan replied. "Usually it's cereal and spilled milk." She glanced at him. "Do you ever get time for yourself?" "Not really. I used to paint, though." He paused, "before everything changed." "What did you paint?" "Landscapes, old buildings, places I wanted to go." Leighton took a slow sip, her eyes thoughtful. "I'd like to see them. They're packed away." "Haven't touched a brush in years." "Maybe you should." He looked at her, surprised by the gentleness in her voice. "Why do you care?" "Because I think people forget themselves when they're busy surviving," she said. "But that doesn't mean you stop being you." Logan didn't reply right away. There was something about her, this sharp, impossibly polished woman, who somehow saw through the noise that made him feel more exposed than he expected. "I didn't think you were the kind of person who'd spend her weekend in a cluttered apartment with a 5-year-old and a mess of pancakes." "I'm not," she said. "But I want to be." Later that afternoon, after Leighton left, Logan found himself digging through the hall closet, pulling out a battered box marked studio. Inside were brushes, cracked tubes of paint, and a few worn sketchbooks. He stared at them for a long time before setting them on the table. The next week passed in a blur of work and daycare runs. Logan didn't hear from Leighton, but he didn't expect to. She was probably back in her glass office, her world full of contracts and suits. Then, on Friday evening, she called. "I have a question," she said as soon as he picked up. "Do you have plans tomorrow night?" "Pancakes, laundry, possibly a movie about singing animals." "How would you feel about putting on something nice and coming to a rooftop gala?" Logan blinked. "A gala? It's for the Zeller Foundation, charity fundraiser." "I have to go and I can't think of anyone else I'd rather bring." He hesitated. "Leighton, I'll take care of everything. Just say yes." He glanced at Delilah, who was coloring at the kitchen table. "Only if I can find someone to watch her." "I already called your neighbor, Mrs. Reyes." "She said she'd love to." Logan laughed despite himself. You really don't take no for an answer. Not when I know what I want. The next evening, he stood in front of his mirror, adjusting the collar of a sleek black suit that hadn't seen daylight since a cousin's wedding 5 years ago. It was a little snug in the shoulders, but it would do. Leighton arrived in a town car, stepping out in a deep navy gown that shimmered under the streetlights. Her hair was swept up, earrings catching the glow like stars. "You clean up well," she said, eyes sweeping over him. Logan gave a low whistle. "You're going to get me thrown out for looking underdressed." They rode in silence for a few minutes, the city lights flickering past. Then Leighton turned to him. "I need to tell you something before we get there." He waited. "There are going to be cameras. People who know who I am, and they're going to wonder who you are." I figured. "I don't care what they think, but I care what you do." Logan met her gaze. "I'm here because you asked." That's all I need. The rooftop was everything he'd imagined her world would be: glass railings, string lights, champagne flutes, and a skyline that looked like a movie set. Men in tuxedos shook hands with practiced ease. Women in designer gowns air-kissed and traded glances. Logan felt out of place from the moment they stepped off the elevator, but Leighton didn't leave his side. "This is Logan Vasquez," she introduced him to a couple in conversation. "He saved my life once." The man laughed. "Really? She's exaggerating," Logan said. "No," she said, eyes locked on his. "I'm not." Halfway through the evening, someone tapped Leighton on the shoulder, a tall, silver-haired man in a tailored black suit. "Leighton, I was wondering if I'd see you tonight." She tensed. "Hello, Conrad." Logan watched the exchange. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. "And who's this?" Conrad asked. "This is Logan," she said. "A friend." Conrad's gaze flicked over him. "Interesting." Leighton's voice cooled. "Excuse us." As they walked away, Logan leaned in. "Someone I should know about. My father's old business partner," she said. "He thinks he still has a say in my life." "Does he?" "Not anymore," she said, lifting her chin. They moved to the edge of the rooftop, away from the crowd. "You all right?" Logan asked. She nodded, then looked out over the city. "You know why I started showing up, why I kept asking to see you?" He waited. "Because you're the first person in a long time who didn't want anything from me. I still don't." She turned to him, her eyes searching his. "But I think I want something from you." He didn't move. "I want to know what it feels like to be wanted for who I am, not what I run or what I can give." He stepped closer, electricity humming in the space between them. "Then stay," he said. "Right here." And under the soft glow of city lights, with the sounds of a distant orchestra drifting through the air, Leighton leaned in and kissed him. Leighton didn't speak on the drive home. Her hand rested lightly on Logan's as the car rolled through the midnight streets, but her mind was miles away. When they reached his apartment, she pressed her lips to his cheek and whispered, "Good night," before stepping back into the car, leaving Logan standing at the curb with the echo of her kiss on his skin and the strange certainty that something had shifted between them. The next morning, Logan found himself staring down at one of his old canvas boards, paintbrush in hand, colors smeared across his palms. Delilah sat nearby, her own drawing of a rainbow giraffe taking shape in bright crayon. He hadn't even realized how much he had missed this, creating something just for the sake of it. "Why are you painting, Daddy?" Delilah asked without looking up. He paused. "Because someone reminded me I used to love it." She considered that. "Is it the pretty lady from the zoo?" Logan tried not to laugh. "Yeah, it is." Delilah nodded solemnly and went back to her drawing. By the end of the week, Leighton still hadn't called. Logan told himself it didn't mean anything. She was probably buried in meetings or flying to another city. But late Friday afternoon, while he was stocking shelves at the hardware store, his phone rang. "I need to get out of here," Leighton said, her voice low and tight. "I'm sending a car, can you come?" He didn't ask questions. He just said yes. When he arrived, the driver took him not to an office or a restaurant, but to a private airfield just outside the city. A silver jet waited at the end of the runway, sleek and humming with quiet power. Leighton stood near the stairs, her coat unbuttoned, hair tousled by the wind, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "Where are we going?" Logan asked, stepping out of the car. "Somewhere quiet," she said. "I promise we'll be back by morning. I just need to breathe." He glanced back at the car. Delilah's with Mrs. Ray's until tomorrow afternoon. I'm in. The jet was silent inside, the hum of engines barely noticeable. Leighton curled up beside him, her shoes kicked off, feet tucked under her. She didn't speak until they were in the air. My board tried to force a merger today, she said, voice flat. They brought in Conrad to advise. He's trying to buy me out of my own company. Logan stared. Can they do that? They can't fire me, but they can squeeze me until I give up. I've been fighting so long, I forgot what it feels like to just exist. He reached for her hand. You're not going to let them win. Her smile was faint. You make it sound simple. It's not, but it's yours. You built it. Don't let them take that from you. Leighton looked out the window. That's why I called you. I couldn't stand another second pretending I'm okay. The plane landed on a small island just off the coast. A waiting car took them down a winding road to a glass-walled villa nestled into a cliffside, waves crashing below. The air smelled like salt and warm stone. I used to come here with my mother, Leighton said as they stepped onto the terrace, before everything became about meetings and shareholders. Logan stepped to the edge, the ocean stretching endlessly beneath them. She must have loved it. She did. She died when I was 19. Everything changed after that. He turned to her. What was she like? Soft in all the ways my father wasn't, Leighton said. She used to sing while she cooked, not well, but she didn't care. They sat on the stone steps as the sun sank low over the water. She leaned against him, eyes closed. I don't know how to be normal anymore, she admitted. Logan rested his chin on her head. Maybe normal's overrated. I want to know what it's like to wake up and not have to prove myself every second. He glanced down at her. Then maybe you're not looking for normal. Maybe you're looking for peace. Later, as night deepened, they lay on a blanket on the rooftop, stars scattered thick above them. Leighton traced a line across the sky with her finger. My father wanted a son, she said suddenly. When I came along, he made sure I knew I'd have to work twice as hard to earn half his respect. Logan didn't interrupt, so I did, she continued. I broke records, skipped grades, took Zeller global by the time I was 28. And still, I can hear his voice every time I close a deal could have been better. Logan shifted closer. You ever tell him that? He's been gone 7 years. But it doesn't matter. The echo stuck. He reached for her hand again, holding it tightly. You're not just what you built. You're more than the name on that building. She turned to look at him. What do you see when you look at me? I see someone who's still learning how to let herself be loved. Her breath hitched. I don't know how, she whispered. You don't have to, he said. Just let go. She leaned in slowly this time, no rush, no urgency, just a quiet surrender, and when their lips met again, it wasn't like before. It was slower, deeper. The kind of kiss that unravels something you didn't know was wound too tight. They didn't speak again until morning. Back in the city, reality returned quickly. Conrad had made his move while she was gone, called a board meeting, started pushing a vote. Logan stood in her office, watching her pace. They want to force me out, she said. I could fight them, but it'll be ugly, public. And they'll come for every piece of me. Then why are you even considering giving them what they want? She stopped pacing. Because I'm tired. He walked over and took both her hands. Then let them see what happens when they push you too far. Her eyes found his. You think I can win? I think you already have. You just haven't realized it yet. He hadn't planned to say anything else, but then he added, and if you fall, I'll be there to catch you. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she stepped forward and pressed her forehead against his. Then let's make them regret ever underestimating me. And just like that, the woman who once said she didn't know how to be wanted for who she was stood straighter. Not as a CEO, not as a Zeller, but as Leighton. And she was ready to fight. Conrad's vote was scheduled for Thursday morning. By Monday, Leighton had already started assembling her counterstrike. Logan watched her work from the corner of her office, her expression razor-sharp, her tone clipped and decisive as she issued instructions to her legal team and financial advisors. He didn't try to intervene. She wasn't asking for permission or approval. What she needed was someone who wouldn't flinch when she showed her full strength, and he could do that. That evening, once the last consultant had left, she leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. Logan crossed to her desk and set down a takeout container. You haven't eaten. I forgot, she murmured, not opening her eyes. I didn't. She sat up slowly. Is that the curry from that place near the park? I remembered you liked it, he said, and I asked them to go easy on the spice. You nearly cried last time. She laughed for the first time in days, and it softened the edges around her mouth. You really do pay attention. I don't forget the things that matter. After they ate, she walked him to the elevator. The building was quiet, the kind of hush that only came after everyone else had left. She hesitated before pressing the button. I've been thinking about something, she said. I spent years building this company because I thought it was the only way to prove my worth. But lately, I've started wondering if I was chasing the wrong kind of validation. You weren't wrong to build something, Logan said, but you're allowed to want more than just survival. She tilted her head. What do you want, Logan, honestly? A life that doesn't feel like it's always on the verge of falling apart. A place where Delilah can feel safe. Someone who sees me, not just what I can give. Her voice dropped. And do you think that life could include me? He didn't answer right away. Then he reached up and gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I don't think, he said. I know. Leighton didn't speak again as the elevator doors opened. She only reached out, her fingers brushing his. A silent promise passed between them, one that didn't need words. The next morning, the press announced the upcoming vote at Zeller Enterprises. Speculation swirled. Headlines questioned her leadership, her direction, her legacy. Leighton didn't flinch. By Wednesday night, she had her plan in place. She stood in front of the large window in her penthouse, the city glowing beneath her, and turned to Logan. You never asked me what I'm going to do. I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. She walked to a cabinet and pulled out a slim folder. Inside were financial statements, board letters, and a signed declaration. They're expecting me to fight for my seat. I'm going to do something they won't see coming. Logan opened the folder and scanned the first page. Then he looked up sharply. You're restructuring the company. I'm converting it into a trust. The board will retain operational control, but the power to override key decisions will lie with a 3-person committee. I'll step down as CEO, but I'll still hold the majority vote on the committee. They won't be able to remove you. No, she said, but they'll think they've won. Until the next time they try to push me out and realize I never left the table. Logan looked at her, admiration clear in his eyes. You're not just playing the game, you're rewriting the rules. I've spent too long playing defense. I'm done with that. Thursday morning arrived with gray skies and a steady drizzle. The boardroom was filled with tension as the members took their seats. Conrad wore a smug expression, tapping a pen against his legal pad. Leighton entered last. She wore a tailored black suit, her hair pulled back in a sleek knot, her expression unreadable. As the vote was called, she stood. Before we proceed, she said, I have a proposal to present. She laid out the terms of the restructure, her voice steady, her logic airtight. The room fell silent when she finished. Conrad leaned forward. You're proposing to step down, I am, and hand over the company to a panel to protect it from exactly this kind of power grab, she said calmly. You wanted me out. Now you can run the daily operations, but I'll still be here where it matters. The legal advisor cleared his throat. It's within her rights. The paperwork is complete and notarized. One by one, the board members glanced at each other. No one moved to challenge her. The vote was called off. Conrad's expression darkened, but he said nothing. As the meeting ended, Leighton walked past him without pause. Logan was waiting outside, Delilah in tow, holding a small bouquet of daisies. Victory flowers, Delilah said proudly. Leighton knelt. Are these for me? They're for the prettiest lady who wins the fight. Leighton's eyes gleamed. Then I think I'll keep them forever. That evening, she invited them both to a quiet dinner, not at a restaurant, but at the townhouse she'd barely spent time in since she bought it. Logan helped Delilah set the table while Leighton stirred a pot of risotto in the kitchen, humming quietly under her breath. I thought you didn't cook, Logan teased. I don't, she said. But I figured I should start learning what peace tastes like. After dinner, while Delilah fell asleep on the couch wrapped in a throw blanket, Logan and Leighton stepped onto the small balcony, the city pulsing softly below. I want to build something different now, she said quietly. With me, with both of you, he didn't hesitate. Then let's start now. She pulled something from her pocket, a small, rectangular box. Inside was a silver key. "This is for the studio on the third floor," she said. "It's yours, I had it cleared out." "There's light all day, and the floors are paint-friendly." Logan stared at the key, then at her. "You didn't have to, I wanted to," she cut in. "Because I believe in what you haven't even started again yet." He took the key. "You know what this means, right? That I'm not afraid to let you in anymore." And then she kissed him there on the balcony, with the hum of the city and the quiet certainty of something permanent blooming between them. Weeks passed. The trust was finalized. The press moved on. Logan's art began to fill the studio canvases of rooftops, of oceans, of a woman standing in the rain with her chin lifted high. Delilah started kindergarten. Her teacher noted she was the only child who brought in fresh-cut daisies every Monday for the classroom. And on a Sunday morning, as sunlight streamed through the townhouse windows and the smell of fresh cinnamon rolls filled the air, Logan got down on one knee in the kitchen. "I don't have a ring yet," he said, holding her hand. "But I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Leighton didn't wait for him to finish. She pulled him to his feet and kissed him hard. "You just gave me everything I didn't know I was allowed to want," she whispered. They married in the fall on the island where the stars still remembered their first real kiss. And when they danced under the open sky, Delilah twirled between them, giggling, never once letting go. Logan had answered a cry for help without knowing who she was. And Leighton had fallen in love with the only man who ever saw her for everything she truly was. Rain peppered the windows of the townhouse as Logan stood at the easel, brush in hand, the scent of turpentine and fresh baked banana bread drifting from the kitchen. He hadn't painted all morning, not really. He'd been staring at the unfinished canvas, lost in the way his life had quietly, irrevocably changed. Behind him, Leighton padded in barefoot, her long cardigan trailing behind her. She carried a steaming mug and set it down beside his water cup. Without speaking, she leaned into his side, her head resting against his shoulder. He spoke without turning. "I can't figure out what's missing." She looked at the canvas. It was a painting of her room, sunlit and lived in, his studio. But there was an empty space where the second chair should have been. "You haven't added yourself," she said softly. "I'm right here." "No," she said, touching his chest. "You're here, but you haven't let yourself be part of the picture." "Not really." He set the brush down and turned to face her fully. "What if I don't know how to be part of something that feels this good?" Leighton looked up at him, her eyes steady. "You already are." He pulled her into a kiss, slow and grounding. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. "Will you come with me to Boston next week?" He blinked. "Boston? I'm speaking at a leadership summit." I was going to say no, but I realized I was only doing that because I didn't want to go alone. "I want you there. And Delilah if she wants." "I'll need to talk to her teacher," he said. "But yeah, we'll come," she smiled, but it was a different kind this time, one filled with something deeper than excitement, a quiet knowing. The trip to Boston was crisp and full of firsts. Delilah's first plane ride where she didn't fall asleep, her first snowball fight in a hotel courtyard, Logan's first time watching Leighton command a stage in front of thousands. She didn't wear armor when she spoke. She wore truth. And Logan watched the audience fall silent, drawn in by her authenticity. Afterward, in the green room, she slipped off her heels and let out a breath. "I never thought I'd enjoy that." "You didn't just enjoy it," Logan said, pressing a cool glass of water into her hand. "You owned it," she gave a small laugh. "It felt less like I was selling something, more like I was finally telling my story." "You were." "I think I'm done hiding behind the company now." Back in the city, the townhouse began to change. Slowly, room by room, the space became something shared. Logan's paintings made their way onto the wall's pieces he'd once hidden in the back of his closet, now hung proudly in the hallway. Delilah's rain boots sat next to Leighton's designer heels at the door. And in the evenings, laughter echoed from the kitchen as they learned to cook things none of them had grown up with. One night, as spring crept in and the air began to warm, Leighton pulled Logan onto the rooftop. Tiny lights had been strung up between the railings, and a blanket was spread beneath an open bottle of wine and a plate of berries. "I wanted to show you something," she said, and handed him a thick envelope. He opened it to find a deed, not for the townhouse. "For a long abandoned gallery space in the Arts District. I bought it for you." He looked from the paper to her, stunned. "I wanted you to have a place to show your work, and to help other artists do the same. You've given me more than I ever thought I deserved." "Let me give you this." He shook his head slowly. "I don't care about a gallery, Leighton. I care about you." "I know," she said, "and that's why I can give you this without it ever feeling like a transaction." He reached for her hand. "What if we did something else instead?" She raised an eyebrow. "What if we turned it into a community space, for kids like Delilah, for families who don't have the resources? Art, music, even just a place to be safe." Her eyes filled, but she nodded. "Yes. Yes, that's better." That summer, they opened the lighthouse, a name Delilah had chosen because it helps people find their way home. On opening day, the courtyard overflowed with children painting on easels, music playing from a local band, and families exploring a gallery filled with work from artists who'd never been given a platform before. Leighton stood beside Logan, her arm looped through his, as the mayor cut the ribbon and Delilah handed out handmade brochures. "I used to think success was about power," Leighton whispered. "Now I think it's about impact." Logan kissed her temple. "You've always had both. You just finally get to choose how to use them." That night, after Delilah had fallen asleep with glitter still stuck to her cheeks, Logan took Leighton's hand and led her onto the rooftop. The city was quiet. The stars above were faint but visible, and the scent of honeysuckle drifted in from the neighbor's vines. He dropped to one knee. This time he had a ring. Simple, elegant, a single sapphire nestled in a platinum band. Leighton didn't cry. She just smiled, her eyes luminous, and said, "Yes," before he even asked. They married beneath a canopy of trees in a quiet garden outside the city. Delilah walked down the aisle first, tossing petals with dramatic flair, and when Logan turned to see Leighton in her soft ivory gown, he felt like the entire world had paused just for her. They didn't need a grand reception or a 5-tiered cake. Just a small table under fairy lights, music playing from a vintage radio, and the people who mattered. Later that night, as the guests faded and the last candle flickered out, they sat side by side on the porch of the little stone house they'd rented for the weekend. "You once told me you didn't know how to let yourself be loved," Logan said. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I remember. And now I know," she said, her voice full and certain, "because I've built a life where love isn't something I have to earn. It's something I get to live in every day." He reached for her hand, lacing their fingers together. And in that quiet, with stars above and the future wide open before them, they didn't need promises or grand declarations. They had each other. They had home. And for the first time in their lives, they had everything.